What if I told you that you didn't have to rely on gatekeepers in order to get your creative work out into the market and in front of your audience? That we're at a point right now, and we have been for a couple of decades, where it's not about making sure that you're getting it in front of the right people who are going to be able to turn the key, open doors, and be able to get it out to a broader swath of people. You actually have that opportunity now. We've had it for a couple of decades, as a matter of fact. That is available. Now, even though that's available, it doesn't mean that there isn't hard work that's involved in this. Hi, welcome. If you're new to this channel, my name is Gregg. I'm a creative producer and director. I've done a ton of work in the industry over the years, and I'm here to help you get your creative work done and out into the market. Um, yeah, welcome. It's kind of what I want to talk about today. For years in the past, whenever you were trying to get something out, you had to make sure that you were getting it in front of the right people, right? Specifically for me, especially when I was a professional actor, it meant that you had to make sure that you were at the right agency. For me, I had some success with doing television commercials, but before I was able to even get into television commercials, I had to make sure that I was with an agency that was going to get me out there for auditions and to get me in front of the right people so I could be filming commercials. I had a pretty good run of it. I had a string of like National Dodge commercials, which went really well. I did an H&R Block commercial with James Mangold, and also did some Toyota spots as well. Like I had a really good run. I was very, very grateful for it. But in order to get to that point, I had to make sure that I was submitting my picture and resume or trying to get references or referrals in order to take meetings with agencies. And one of the bigger agencies I ended up going with, I ended up having to go through like 4 rounds of interviews with all the different partners of the agency in order to get represented. And I get it. Like in that day and age, and this even exists now, especially with agents that are representing artists or writers, whatever. They want to make sure, hey, am I getting not only somebody that's got talent and ability, um, do I have somebody that's going to is giving me the impression that they're going to show up and do the work that's involved. And it's when you start thinking about agents, that's how they make their money, right? They only make their money after you're out there, you're booking work, and then there's money coming in, and then they get a commission off of that. So it's a very sales driven atmosphere. Um, Now, the biggest thing that's happened, especially over the last 20, 25 years now, is that uh, yes, is there a need for agencies and managers and all that stuff? Absolutely, right? You're seeing that at very top levels. Um, but there's something that has happened, especially with the internet, with connectivity that we have with the web, that we're able to get it out to a broader swath of people. The biggest challenge that we have is when you're trying to get your stuff out there, it can easily get lost in the ether, right? Because there's hundreds of millions, if not billions of people that are all online trying to get their stuff out there at the same time. My point with all of this is that you can get your stuff out there. You just have to make sure that you're being able to you gotta know the business. You gotta know how to do the work, and you have to educate yourself. I think for years, what existed and has existed, particularly in the art world or with creatives, is well, I just do my creative work and that's all I do, right? I just write or I paint or I act or I do all that stuff. Somebody will discover me and somebody will discover me and they'll take care of all the business for me. And then that's how I'll get the opportunities. And I will tell you the most challenging thing, especially coming from an acting background, it's doing that as an actor. Like having that ability, skill, and talent to be able to get up and to perform and to get deep into characters and to be able to help with storytelling, it's awesome. But if you weren't doing any other version of that process, including, the writing of scripts or directing or producing, you're basically waiting around for an opportunity to come your way where you can go, oh, well, here's an opportunity where I can use my skills. And half the time, especially when you're talking about actors, it's about trying to find the right type of material because there's a ton of bad material that's out there that you go, "Ugh, this is garbage. I don't want to be involved in it. Um, so to think about being in something where you were just kind of like, well, hey, I can perform, I can do all these skills, but you know, what the heck am I going to do? For me, I end up having to do a lot of things. That's part of the reason why I was doing writing and directing and producing. Working with a theater company that we have here in Los Angeles, which is called the Collective Theater Company, getting together with like-minded people and putting our work together and just putting it up and actually doing something, right? That attitude of like doing something, and it's not just about creating the art as well. It's also about understanding how the business works, right? You have to start understanding, how do I do marketing and business and selling with my stuff, or at least something so that I'm learning how to get it out in front of more eyeballs. That's a continual theme that you will hear with me. I think it's wonderful that you've been given the ability and the skill and the talent to do something. But if you are sitting in a room and not sharing it with anyone else, what's going on, right? I mean, you could easily sit in a room and, be playing a guitar and singing and doing all that stuff and just doing it to no one. Or maybe you could be using materials on your computer to be able to get it out to a broader swath of people so they can hear it, or at least getting out into the world and like going somewhere live where people can interact and where you can start establishing relationships with people and start getting just just start getting this stuff out there. My point is this: you have to start learning how to do this business. And I know it might cause you to just kind of go, it's just not my thing. It's not my deal. I don't know how to do it. You have to learn how to do it. You have to learn how to do this. Because if you don't learn it, because at least at the very least, if you start taking the steps to start learning how to do the business, how to do the work, how to do the marketing, and part of this marketing, it's not about trying to have somebody say, look at me, look at me, look at me, look at what I can offer. The thing that you may be offering with your writing or with your performance or whatever, your audience is out there. And this is the great thing about art, whether it's books or plays or movies or even music. You're serving an audience because when an audience is watching something that you are doing, they are looking at it and they are seeing themselves in the story to some extent, right? It's part of the reason why we watch it. There may be things that are going on in a movie that the circumstances may be very different from our lives, but there might be something that a character is going through that resonates with a problem that we've had in our life, an experience that we've had in our life, a hope that we have in our life. And when somebody is watching a movie or reading a book, in a way, they are almost putting themselves into the roles of the characters and going, oh man, yes, I wish that I was that person making that journey or accomplishing that win or defeating that foe, right? And actually, me watching that makes me want to look at the stuff that's going on in my life and I want to defeat the stuff that I'm going through. Um, so the thing is this, is that when you're creating your art and you're putting your art out there, you know what you're actually doing? You're actually serving your audience. You're serving your audience. This isn't about hey, look at me, look at me, look at me. It's how can I help the other people that are watching or partaking? Big question I ask my students all the time. Have you ever listened to music that's made you like cry or it's just made your heart fill up, right? That's the power that happens with art, right? And yes, it's something that you may have experienced that you're trying to also share with other people, but you're sharing it for a reason. You're sharing it because other people are hearing it and they're going, yeah, me too. Me too. And I do believe that God has put that talent and that skill in us so that we can share that with other people so that other people know that they're not alone and that we're all striving towards a bigger goal and a bigger journey. for where we're going. This isn't about you. It's not about you. But in order for you to get that message or that art or whatever that is out there, it ain't going to happen with you just sitting in your room and just wishing or pining or hoping that somebody's going to get you. And I do think that if you take the steps and start to learn this, and you can learn anything, people have learned anything. Listen, it's one thing to be able to go, it's very difficult, very hard, right? It's another thing to realize, like, hey, you kind of need to get on board, right? How many people have I seen over the last 10 or 15 years that were so reluctant to, yeah, I don't want to do computers. I don't want to do the internet. I don't want to do any of that stuff. The fact is, it's like the world's moving on, right? Like we're moving forward and trying to, things speed up in a way where we're interacting with each other. I get it. I see it happen in my own circles with, family and friends where, there's a difference between people that just go, I don't want to touch the internet and, want to do everything by, snail mail, which that's fine too. Like hard copy mail, totally get it. I think that that has its point and absolutely valid. But the speed of communication with things in order to get things done faster, it happens faster with emails or texts, in order to get it done. And you're also dealing with a younger population that's how they know to communicate and to get things done as quickly and efficiently, you know. Same thing happens for your art with what you're doing. You've got to be getting it out there. And believe me, I'm going to say this, that some of the schooling that I went through, and I'll make a broad generalization here. If I'm wrong about this, please let me know in the comments, right? I would love to be able to go back and forth with you on this. But I remember when I was going through my training, when I was going through my acting training that was here in Los Angeles, I was at Cal State University of Los Angeles over in Alhambra. Here I was training as an actor, professional actor. We never covered the business, and we were in the middle of Hollywood, right? The thing that I would constantly hear teachers say all the time was like, well, yeah, but when you get in the real world, yeah, but when you get in the real world. And I just remember being so frustrated with that, which is like, okay, yes, we're in this what hermetically sealed environment where we can put on plays and get audiences and get reaction and put butts in seats and all that stuff, and to be able to do the type of material that we want to do. And then we'd always get that feeling, we'd always get that response of just like, well, out in the real world, you can't really do this, you won't be able to make a living doing this. I remember probably one of the coolest experiences that happened for me. It was a breakneck last year for me when I was at Cal State LA. Because when I was at Cal State LA, a couple of different things happened. I was having this itching because I'd done a ton of work. I probably had worked on, I feel like when I counted it once, like in the time period that I was at Cal State LA in those 4 years, I think I worked on like 27 different productions. Like it was nuts. I was doing like play after short project. I mean, it was just nuts, breakneck speed. And I remember when I got towards the very end of my stay out at Cal State LA, I remember I was at a point where I was just going, you know what? I need to be doing something in the industry, even if I'm like working at a theater and just like, pushing a broom or a mop or something like that. I actually need to be in this and making money while I do this, right? To at least learn my way up. God bless him, man. Jose Cruz Gonzalez, who was one of my teachers back then, he also worked regularly down at South Coast Repertory in Costa Mesa. And he said, listen, they have this children's theater touring production that they do. You might be right for it. I can introduce you to the casting director that's down there and the director of the show that's down there. And he warned me. He said, listen, I'm just going to warn you, like if you get this, there's a good chance you might not be able to finish out like your last quarter here. Cause like, you may have to put off your last quarter in order to finish out school. I went down, uh, ended up auditioning. They dug me. Martha McFarland was the casting director at the time. J.D. Keller was the director. They hired me for their touring show. that they were going to be doing in the spring, right? It was starting in the spring. Remember, it started in January, and gosh, it started in January, and it just happened. My first day of rehearsal was right after the huge earthquake had happened down here in LA. Um, but I remember I got that and I ended up leaving a part-time job that I was doing. I was working at Pier One Imports, which is for like a furniture, um, dining, rugs, whatever, a whole bunch of mishmash, knickknack stuff. I've been working there forever, and I went over to this job. It was my first professional job as an actor. It got me into Actors Equity. But I remember I was doing that show, then I was also going to school as well because I'd figured out a way to make both of those things happen at the same time. And as I got towards the end of that quarter, like around that same year too, me and a couple other students, one of my friends had a relationship with the DoubleTree Hotel that was in Pasadena, and he was able to make an arrangement for us to put on kind of like a dinner type show down at the Pasadena DoubleTree Hotel in one of their banquet rooms, and we put on a production of Room Service, which is like a comedy, 1930s comedy. The Marx Brothers had done a film on it, but it was based on a play, which we did, sort of a farce comedy from the 1930s. I remember that whole, and this was a thing that we were doing separate outside of school. So in that entire last year, not only was I putting on a production where we're like putting this to the test of like, can we produce a show outside of school where we're actually charging tickets and making money for it? Then I was also hired as a professional actor while I was also finishing up school at the same time and just like doing all these things at the same time. My point was this was that no one and this I'm not blaming my teachers or my educational environment, right? No one was in a point where no one was at a point where they were just going to, oh yeah, well here's how you do it. You just go do this and this and this. I had to experiment and figure out what was going on. What was I doing? You know, um, making mistakes along the way. So many stupid mistakes along the way, but then also having some incredible learnings from doing that as well. Uh, my point with this story is that if you're watching this, you're creative, right? You're doing something. You're writing, or you're trying to make films, or you're trying to do something, right? And there's a part of you that's been driven to do this, and you want to get this stuff out into the world. And the fact is, nobody's coming to save you. Nobody's going to come in and all of a sudden like pluck you out of the blue and just go, "Oh, don't worry, I'll save you. Here you go. Oh, fantastic, kid. What fantastic work. You know what? Don't worry. You sit back. I'll take care of it. I'll promote you. I'll put you out there. You know, I'll make sure that you get into something where you make tons and tons of money." Usually doesn't happen that way. As a matter of fact, should I get very stereotypical? Sure, why not? As a matter of fact, if that type of stuff were to happen, don't worry, kid. There's probably some type of predatory behavior that's involved in it, right? Somebody that's either looking for something, inappropriate from you in order to get something from you, or somebody that's looking to um, start cutting some profits off you off the back end that you wouldn't be aware of. My gosh, I saw that Elvis movie that Baz Luhrmann did just a couple of years ago. That guy that's in it, that's also in Masters of the Air. I cannot think of the actor's name off the top of my head. He does such a fantastic job. He's also in Dune 2. Um, man, the one thing with that was like as you're watching Elvis's career and you see the colonel that was managing him. And I get it, like the Presleys, even Lisa Marie Presley years later didn't hold anything against the colonel that was managing Elvis. He was a very kind man, but you know, that dude was in a way he was taking advantage of Elvis, right? He was like making millions and millions and millions of dollars off of this talent, while Elvis just didn't have any idea. He was just like showing up and just doing the work, right? Don't be that. Don't be like Elvis, right? Like, be like Elvis if you've got this incredible talent, but you have to get savvy about the business and learn. At the very least, you have to learn about promotion and trying to at least make money that's going to support you so that you can do the art, right? I mean, at the very least, wouldn't you want to be doing something, even if you have a regular 9 to 5 job that's going on? Wouldn't you at least like something that was bringing a supplemental income for you and your family while you're also doing it that could also support you as you're, maybe upgrading with getting different materials that you could ended up using, it could end up using and making your art even better, you know? What are some ways that you can do this? Right here, where I'm at, on YouTube, social media, whatever you're doing, right? And part of this can also be about you practicing and sharing what you're learning along the way, right? I'm learning this as I'm doing this. Guys, I've been learning this for 20 years as I've been doing this, right? Trying to like experiment. I think that the biggest problem that I've had over the years, which is like, well, let me try and it doesn't work right away, so I'll count on back, right? And you got to get to a point where you finally just dive in. You just go, I got to go all the way in. We got to go all the way in and start doing this. I stopped just trying to like test the water. Eventually, at some point, you've got to dive in. You've got to let go of the edge of the pool and you've got to start swimming in that deep end because there's some incredible stuff that can happen there. If you don't know how to do it with marketing or promoting or getting your stuff out there or growing your social media reach, or how do I video this? How do I share this stuff? There are videos of people that can do this. There are videos of people that can show you how to get this stuff down. There will be material that I will have coming down the line that's going to help you to encourage you in order to get this stuff done. It's why I feel so passionate about this. Of like, you can do this. I can't do it. Yes, you can. Stop making the excuses. Stop coming up with the lies. Stop coming up with the idea of just like, oh, there's too much on my plate. There's so much to do. Knock it off. If you can scroll through, scroll endlessly consuming Instagram or TikTok or whatever, or binging your Netflix or whatever you're binging, come on, you can do this. You can cut out time in order to share what you've got with the world because that's what God's calling you to do. So, you want to hear more messages like this, and there'll be more material that I'm coming your way to share with you in order to get your creative work done and get it out into the world. Please like, subscribe, and share this video with other people. I'm just grateful that you're here, and I will see you on the next video. Bye-bye.